Liam and I had been together for 5 years, engaged for 8 months. We had a cat named Olive, a small apartment in Portland, and a wedding date set for October. I thought nothing could destroy what we had until that Friday night. Over dinner, he looked down at his plate and said, "I'm not sure anymore, Ava. Maybe we're making a mistake." I thought I'd misheard him. But the next day at a bar with his coworkers, he joked, "If she were a bit prettier, I might have already married her." They laughed. He laughed. And I sat in my car, listening to that story through a friend's voice, realizing my love had just died in public. But the worst part wasn't the humiliation. It came the next morning when his mother called, her voice trembling through the phone. "Ava, there's something you need to know about Liam, something he's been hiding from you." I didn't know then that meeting her would unravel everything and expose a secret that would bury 5 years of my life in a single day. I used to think I knew Liam Carter better than anyone. After 5 years together, I could read him like a map, the way he drummed his fingers when anxious or went quiet when he was hurt. We met at a birthday party by the harbor in Portland, under the yellow string lights and the smell of beer and salt water. I was a tired dental assistant coming off a 10-hour shift. He was a civil engineer who'd just finished building a bridge up north. Our story began over burnt coffee and easy laughter, two people who believed in simple things. 3 years later, we moved into a tiny walk-up downtown. The floors creaked with every step, the walls smelled faintly of cedar, and our cat, Olive, made herself queen of the apartment. We built a life around small routines: morning coffee, late-night Netflix, weekend strolls past the waffle shop that always smelled like sugar and butter. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours, and that was enough. Then one June morning, he proposed. We were standing at the top of Munjoy Hill, the ocean glimmering below, the wind tugging at my hair. He fumbled the ring box, nearly dropped it, and laughed through his nerves. I said yes through tears. No fireworks, no music, just us and the sound of the sea. In that moment, I believed love could survive anything. I was the planner. Flowers, photos, cake, music. He'd just nod and say, "Whatever you want, babe." I mistook his indifference for trust. It wasn't. It was distance. 3 months ago, the first cracks appeared. He came home later, stopped replying to texts. When I asked what was wrong, he said, "Work's just stressful lately." I wanted to believe him. But even silence has a tone, and his was starting to sound like goodbye. My best friend, Tessa Reed, a nurse with no patience for denial, was blunt. "Ava, when a man stops talking, it's not because he's tired, it's because he's already talking to someone else." I laughed it off, told her she watched too many dramas. But I knew she was right. There's a kind of dread you feel in your gut before your heart ever catches up. Then came the name. Riley James, the new project coordinator at his firm. He mentioned her casually, too casually. "Riley's great. She's quick, organized. Saved me a ton of work." I smiled and said, "That's nice." But inside, something small and sharp began to twist. The next morning, he left a note on the kitchen counter. "Heading to the site early. Don't wait up for breakfast. Love you." The I before love you was gone. Just one missing letter, but my heart noticed. We still lived together. Still shared space, jokes, groceries. But at night, when he turned away in bed, I could almost hear it. The sound of something breaking quietly between us. That Friday night, I booked a table at a small Italian place in Oldport. I wanted us to reconnect, to remind him why we worked. I even slipped our engagement photo into a little card as a surprise. He arrived 10 minutes late. Same man, different energy. When I smiled, he didn't. Dinner was awkward. When I brought up the guest list, he shrugged. "We don't need that many people, do we? Less is better," I laughed weakly. "What, are we eloping?" But his eyes were somewhere else. Then, the blow landed. "I don't know if we should be doing this right now." The fork slipped from my hand. 5 years together, and he was unsure. Now? He said he just needed time. I asked, "Time to think about what, Liam? The wedding or us?" He said nothing. We drove home in silence. He slept on the couch. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, trying not to suffocate on the weight of what he didn't say. Then came the email. It was from our shared wedding account. Subject, RE Coordination Files, Riley J. It was a short message from Liam, sent the night before. "You really saved me today. I don't know what I'd do without you. No hearts, no emojis, but I felt it. Something had already crossed a line. The next day, he was gone before I woke up. I texted him. He replied, "Meeting." That was it. Later that evening, my phone buzzed. It was Kyle, one of his coworkers. He sounded hesitant. "Ava, I don't know if I should tell you this, but things got weird at the Rusty Anchor tonight." My heart dropped. "What happened?" He paused, then said, "They were teasing Liam about the wedding." He laughed and said, "If she were prettier, I might actually be more excited." The world tilted. Kyle added quickly, "We told him it was out of line. He said he was just joking." I sat in my car for 20 minutes crying so hard I couldn't breathe. That joke, if you can call it that, cut deeper than any truth. When I got home, he was passed out on the couch, the apartment reeking of beer. The engagement ring sparkled under the dim kitchen light, cold and empty. I picked it up, held it tight. It felt like holding someone else's promise. That night, I didn't sleep. And for the first time, I realized the man lying in my living room wasn't mine anymore. The next morning, my phone rang. "Diane Carter." Her voice trembled. "Ava, can we meet? There's something you need to know about Liam. I met her at a small cafe near the square." She looked exhausted, pale, eyes swollen, coffee untouched. After a long silence, she slid an envelope across the table. Inside, a treatment letter from a clinic. Patient, Liam Carter. Diagnosis, anxiety disorder and behavioral impulse issues. I blinked, confused. She said softly, "He didn't want you to know. He's been struggling for years, since his father left. He's terrified he'll turn into him." She told me Liam had started therapy years ago but stopped after our engagement. That lately, he'd been confiding in Riley, not because they were romantically involved, but because she made him feel safe. That safety turned into emotional dependence. "He's afraid, Ava," she said. "Not of you, of becoming his father. When he feels too close, he pulls away. When he's happy, he panics." I couldn't stop the tears. It was tragic and cruel. He'd rather destroy our love than risk living through his father's sins. Before I left, Diane squeezed my hand. "You were the best thing that ever happened to him." But love can't cure fear. Only honesty can, and he's not there yet. Outside, the rain had started. I drove without knowing where to go, pulling over by the ocean. The waves slammed against the rocks, angry and relentless. My phone buzzed. A message from Liam. "I know Mom talked to you. I'm sorry, but there's more you don't know." I stared at the screen until it blurred. And that was when I realized the truth wasn't done hurting me yet. I went back to the apartment the next morning. It smelled like dust and regret. Liam was on the couch, pale and hollow-eyed. "You said there's more I don't know," I said. "So tell me." He nodded, barely above a whisper. "There is no Riley James." I froze. He swallowed hard. "She exists, but the emails?" "The ones you saw? I made them." My chest tightened. "You made them?" "I created a fake account. I wrote to myself pretending someone cared. I didn't even know why. It made me feel lighter. I felt sick." "You wanted me to find them?" He shook his head. "No, but part of me hoped you would. That way you'd leave first. I wouldn't have to be the one who broke it." I couldn't speak. He kept talking, eyes wet. "The joke at the bar, it wasn't about you." I panicked. "I thought if you got angry, it'd be easier to let you go." "I didn't want to become my father," I whispered. "You're not him." He looked at me, empty, lost. I don't know who I am anymore. The silence between us was heavier than words. I took off my ring and placed it on the table. "You need help, Liam, but not from me." He nodded slowly. "I know. And I know I've already lost you." At the door, he said quietly, "I did love you, Ava." I turned back. "Maybe, but you loved your fear more." I closed the door, walked down the hallway, and didn't look back. That night, driving away in the rain, I thought, sometimes love doesn't die from betrayal. It dies from the fear of being loved at all. I moved in with Tessa the next day. Her apartment smelled like coffee and cinnamon, the kind of place where sadness felt temporary. She didn't ask questions, just handed me a mug and said, "Cry it out. Then we'll start over." I told her everything. She listened, then sighed. I don't know if that was love or just his way of running from himself. maybe both. At night, I barely recognized the reflection staring back at me in the window. Not the bride-to-be I used to be. Just a woman trying to breathe again. Liam texted a few times. I'm back in therapy. I understand if you never respond. I didn't. It wasn't anger. It was acceptance. A week later, I returned to our apartment to pack. It was quiet, hollow. The ring I'd left sat exactly where I'd placed it, beside a note. I hope you find the peace I couldn't give you. I kept it, not as a memory, but as a reminder. That sometimes the ones who break us the most are the ones who teach us what we deserve. Tessa helped me move to Bar Harbor, a small coastal town a few hours away. I took a leave from work. Every morning I walked along the shore, watched the fog lift off the water, and felt something inside me start to clear too. One night, Tessa asked over FaceTime if he came back. Said he's changed. Would you forgive him? I said, I already have, but that doesn't mean I'd stay. Because I'd learned, love shouldn't be a war against someone else's fear. I'd spent years trying to heal him and forgot to save myself. Now I write. I hike, I breathe, and when people ask what made me stronger, I tell them, the day I stopped trying to be someone's home and became my own. A few weeks later, Diane texted, Liam's getting better. He said losing you taught him what real love costs. Thank you for not turning pain into hate. I cried reading it, but not from heartbreak. It was relief, the kind that comes when you finally understand that letting go was the act of love. One evening, I stood by the sea, wind tangling my hair. I took off the bracelet he'd given me and threw it into the waves. It vanished beneath the surface, leaving only ripples, and for the first time, I felt free. It's been 3 months since I left Portland. Now I wake up to seagulls instead of alarms, and the smell of salt instead of city smog. I rent a little wooden house near Bar Harbor, 5 minutes from the shore. Every morning, I make coffee, open the window, and let the cold air remind me I'm still here. I went back to work recently, same job, different heart. I'm not afraid of being alone anymore. Weekends are for hikes, lavender plants, and writing in a notebook that smells like the ocean. Tessa still calls every Sunday. My mom mails cookies like sugar can heal anything. Sometimes I still dream about Liam, but in those dreams we don't speak. We just stand there, quietly forgiving each other. Last week I got a letter from Diane. Liam's still in therapy. He says his biggest regret isn't losing the wedding. It's making you believe you weren't enough. You helped him see what love really means, even if you had to leave. I folded the letter, set it aside, and smiled. Forgiveness isn't for him. It's for me. For the girl who stayed too long in a love that kept her small. Sometimes I drive to the old lookout where he proposed. The air is colder now, sharper, clearer. And when I see my reflection in the car window, I almost don't recognize her. Not because she's changed too much, but because she's finally free. I once thought love meant holding someone's hand through the storm. Now I know. Sometimes love means letting go when the storm lives inside them. Because only when you walk out of the rain do you realize the sky was always waiting inside you.